Hello, distinguished guests and friends. It is an honor to speak at this international platform hosted by Saigon High-Tech Park, one of the region's most dynamic engines for innovation. Today, I'll speak about building a semiconductor ecosystem for global impact, how we can turn challenges into opportunities, and how Singapore and Vietnam, together with our ASEAN partners, can become a powerful force in the global semiconductor landscape. So today, we are at a very interesting point for our industry. In fact, we are at an inflection point for our industry. Artificial intelligence, AI chips are driving exponential demands, but we face real constraints from energy, water, materials, and geopolitics. I call this the semiconductor paradox. Technology advancing faster than our ability to keep up with its consequences. Yet, within uncertainty lies opportunities. I like to look at the cup half full actually, because uncertainties favors the connected, they favor the curious, and most importantly, they favor the collaborative. That's why we are here today, to connect, to learn, and to collaborate. The global semiconductor market today is planned to exceed over $700 billion and is on track to hit $1 trillion by 2030. This growth is driven by mega trends from AI, electric vehicles, 5G, and now 6G, connectivity, and industry digitalization. Yet, the industry remains cyclical, but the mega trends are structural. They define the long game for our industry. Every industry today, from healthcare to transportation to energy, depends on silicon. The question is no longer if semiconductors will grow, but how fast and where the next wave of innovation will take root. If you look at these, the demand drivers, the world is hunger for more chips and will nearly double by 2030. Every smart devices, every electric vehicles, every data centers that we build depends on semiconductors. The $1 trillion race is not just about who produces more chips anymore. It's about who innovates faster, who builds a more resilient supply chain, and who can sustain trust and collaboration across borders. That's where ASEAN has a tremendous opportunity by combining innovation and inclusivity, speed, and stability. Now, we operate in a new reality for trade. The competition between the US and China is reshaping the semiconductor supply chain. Export controls, friendshoring, and technology restrictions have made trust the new currency. In this environment, countries that are neutral, reliable, and transparent becomes indispensable. Singapore has played that role as a stabilizing anchor in the global semiconductor network. But no nation can do this alone. A trusted network is built when partners like Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and Singapore collaborate, creating an ecosystem of trust across ASEAN. Now, this is a very interesting chart showing the world. Look at this semiconductor value that is created today. Asia accounts for nearly 2/3 of the global semiconductor output, over $478 billion to be exact. This dominance also means responsibilities to ensure that our growth is sustainable, resilient, and inclusive. The $1 trillion race should not divide us. In fact, it should unite us, because the next wave of transformation will not be about one country outpacing another, but it's about region working together to build a stronger, smarter, and more importantly, a greener semiconductor future. So look at where ASEAN is today. ASEAN is already contributing to 1/4 of the global semiconductor IC exports. From Malaysia to Vietnam, the Philippines, we are all leaders in assembly, test, and packaging. We're now seeing increasing investment coming into this side of the world also. Together, ASEAN is fast becoming a third pole for the semiconductor world, alongside the US and China, a diversified, resilient, and collaborative hub for the semiconductor world. Across ASEAN, each nation brings very unique strength. Singapore has been around, semiconductor has been around for 57 years now, and is a hub for advanced manufacturing, design, and R&D. Malaysia, the global powerhouse for back-end assembly and test. A fast emerging hub for OSAT IC design and software development can be seen in Vietnam too. Thailand, Philippines are strong in automotive, electronics, and packaging, while Indonesia is rich in materials and a growing manufacturing capability too. So imagine if we align this strength of all these ASEAN nations connect our supply chains, and build a common industry standards, ASEAN will not just participate in the global semiconductor race, we will define the next chapter. Now, I will go back to Singapore now and give an overview about Singapore's semiconductor ecosystem. Like I mentioned, we've been around for more than half a century now. We have majority of the front-end fabs here from Global Foundries, Micron to UMC, and also the back-end OSATs such as Chipback, UTech, and ASC. But a lesser-known fact is that Singapore manufacture and assemble up to 20% of the global semiconductor equipment. But what is more important is at the bottom right, you see here, is the local ecosystem that has been supporting the semiconductor industry over the past half a century. They are what I call the unsung heroes. Now, this is just an overview of the Singapore semiconductor ecosystem. At 5 o'clock, you'll see the likes of Global Foundries. These are the front-end manufacturing so-called facilities. At 10 o'clock, you'll see equipment manufacturers such as Applied Materials and Chia having a presence here. But more importantly, is the research and academia group, the A-stars of the world. They are the ones who are innovating technology with the industry. They're all present in Singapore, and to be fair, this doesn't represent the entire ecosystem of Singapore, but it's a very diverse representation of what ASEAN semiconductor could be if we unite and work together. Now, I'm going to touch on the 3 focus areas for the industry growth. First and foremost is about growing and strengthening our workforce for the industry. The industry workforce continue to be the major so-called cap for the growth of this industry. Secondly is to always have the ability to strengthen and grow your local SMEs, bring them out to the world. And lastly is on sustainability, because going green is not just from a business standpoint anymore. It is a responsibility that every one of the industry and us have to take upon. Now, I'm going to touch a little bit about developing our talent pool, because this is a very critical topic that we want to emphasize, and it will never be enough workforce for the industry. We need to start developing them and continuously developing them. Developing skilled talents and strong leadership is always essential for our industry. In Singapore, we align education with industry needs very closely, promote lifelong learning, and to create public-private partnership that encourage innovation. We also invest in leadership development, grooming the next generation of semiconductor leaders. Imagine connecting these efforts regionally, exchange program between Vietnam and Singapore universities, joint research and shared training facilities. That's how we build our, not just our workforce, but a community of innovators across ASEAN. Now, I'm going to touch on SMEs and developing a strengthened and growing the SMEs so-called ecosystem too. SMEs are the beating heart of the semicon industry and ecosystem. They drive agility, innovation, and local value creation. In Singapore, we work closely with multinational companies and agencies to help SMEs access technology, funding, and global markets too. Vietnam ecosystem of fast-growing SMEs and startups mirrors this spirit. By linking our SMEs, we can develop solutions, share best practices, and participate jointly in global value chains. Let's move from competition to co-creation. Sorry, let me just show the next one. So now the next topic I'm going to touch about is really on the insights. We recently did a study for Singapore landscape, and we have identified areas where SMEs could participate in. This is a perfect area for collaboration for Vietnam, where areas of AI, data analytics, and robotics are what the semiconductor industry is calling for. Together, Singapore and Vietnam can create a connected and resilient regional semiconductor ecosystem. High-value R&Ds in Singapore complemented by scalable manufacturing in Vietnam, for example. That's a win-win partnership model that we can bring onto ASEAN. So with that, I'm going to go to my last page here. And it is about connecting, it's about collaborating, and most importantly, creating the future together. The next chapter of semiconductor story will be written by those who connect across borders and disciplines. Let's continue to collaborate boldly, innovate relentlessly, and most importantly, to invest in our people. Singapore and Vietnam shares the very similar vision, and to grow not just industry, but our future together. So together, we can shape a world powered by trust, technology, and like I mentioned several times now, talent. Kap Ng Kapan. Thank you very much.